Got quiet in here.
Anticipation.
The order. Roll.
Brown.
Here.
Ely. Here. Godwin.
Here.
Norris.
Here. If I get everyone to stand up for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Approval of the minutes that was sent. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, they will stand as sent. Approval of the current financial report. Move to accept the financial report. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Brown.
Yes.
Ely.
Yes.
Godwin.
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Moving on, approval of the agenda. Number 5, we can strike that. That's already been taken care of. Is there anything else to add?
Just an executive session.
Okay, and there is a need for an executive session. I can't talk tonight. ORC 121-22-1, the consideration of the appointment of an employment dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employer or official.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Move to approve the agenda as amended. Call the roll.
Brown.
Yes.
Ely.
Yes.
Godwin.
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and to the podium and speak, just state your name and address. All right, moving on to administration report. Honorable Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. I got a couple of things to bring up. Couple of announcements first. Coming up, the first of the month is first Fridays will be the Artisan Stroll. So that is a day. It's on the 6th, 5th?
5th.
5th, Friday's the 5th, yeah. So it's a little bit after our next council meeting, but then leading up to it, it's gonna be pretty quick. So just so everybody be aware and look forward to that. We'll hope for good weather, no doubt. And then the other thing I got, the gathering of the Ghosts is right around the corner, the end of the month. And that's on instead of Friday, I think they cut that out. So it's on Saturday and Sunday, 30th and 31st. And out to Ghost Museum. So that's a great event for everybody in town. So a lot of people out of town. One little tidbit I wanted to bring up that some people are aware of, but it was something that our past council president had always brought up. Treaty Day is just around the corner, August 3rd. And the reason I bring it up tonight is because of as you go along towards the signing of the treaty, that during this period of time was the end of the negotiations. So what brought that on was the Battle of Fallen Timbers, which was near Maumee, just south of Maumee along the river. And the reason they called it Fallen Timbers was because there was a tornado in the area and it knocked down a lot of trees in that spot, and that's where the battle was. So it's kind of interesting. But the little bit I want to share also was the reason I bring it up now before the treaty is because all this time, particularly, it took over 8 months of negotiations before they signed the treaty. I just thought that was kind of interesting. And so next meeting will be just before or after the treaty signing, because if you look it up, it was August 3rd, but if you go out here to the sign that's out here at the corner of the city property, it says August 5th. So I'm not positive. So it's kind of interesting. So with that, I'll pass.
Mr. Burker would know the date.
Yes, if he's listening, text one of us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Safety Service Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few things for this evening. The first, I would like to request a reassignment of a committee. Last time it was the ad hoc committee for the extension of the 121 North sanitary sewer. And I believe that was Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Godwin, and Mr. Whitaker.
Okay, when would you like that back?
So we were hoping to meet here at the end of this week. We could potentially need another meeting, and then I guess it's up to Mr. Schmidt. Do you want mid-August or first meeting in September?
I think we could do the second meeting in August.
Okay.
If that's good for you.
Yep, that's great.
All right, so yeah, we'll just put the same ones back on that. So it'd be Doug Schmidt, Whitaker, and who was the other one? Clarence. Okay, so back on the 16th of August, second meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President. The second thing, we've been talking about Rumpke and trash, and Rumpke, another Rumpke rep is here tonight. And I'm just kind of getting to the point where, you know, we did some pros and cons and we've talked about it, and it sounds like there's people on both sides that like both ways. So I just wanted some direction, kind of field counsel out on how they wanted me to pursue with that. If we need more data, if you want me to start, you know, looking into next year's contract with Rumpke. I thought, actually, I'll give Mr. Riemann credit, was maybe we could do a 1 year with 1 year extensions from Rumpke, kind of change the contract around, but I'm open. Just would like to see what direction council would like to take that.
My opinion is that I think we should continue, you know, maybe a 1 year contract with a renewal, like you suggested there. I think the money outlay that we would have to do and so forth, and a lot of logistics is not in place at this point to be able to move forward with it in such a short period of time.
Any other comments?
Have you started any negotiation at all? I mean, or are you just waiting?
No, just waiting. Our contract's not due till next April.
Okay.
So we have time. But, you know, just through the discussion, you know, there's been talk of bags and potentially adding toters, you know, we could do, and Dusty, maybe you could speak if they would allow it. You know, kind of what direction we want to go as far as, do we want them to offer recycling toters? We could do a base bid, and then we could do alternate bids, adding different things. I mean, I guess from the discussions I've had with Rumpke, like the sky's the limit. It's how we want it now. Obviously, there's a cost involved with every change we make, but that would kind of be a place to start.
I would be interested to find out, because, we talked about bags, billing and all of that. I would be interested to see how we could add that billing to our water utilities billing. I would be interested to see what type of program what cost factor that would be, not only from Rumpke, but also how it would affect our budget figures that we would have to put in too. Because we're gonna have billable hours for staff here on the city too. So I was just kind of curious about how that might work into it.
So if you did like everyone, if you required everyone to get it, it would be kind of an easy thing to do. But if you kept the bags and everything, I've kind of put a little thought into that. It would be tough, but you would almost have to bill people and then they would have to come to the city building to get bags on the front end, because then you would know what everyone is getting. I think it would be tough, and we would definitely need more employees down in the utilities office. They're pretty stretched the way it is. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's
I was
definitely
just
worth a
thinking
look.
because, they
Absolutely.
did put that forward as
Right.
something that might be feasible. So, I just want to make sure that we've got employees to do it, employees that are willing to do it. And, I don't, and like you said, the staff is kind of stretched thin, but
Right. And honestly, in my opinion, what that does is it puts the risk on the city. Other municipalities do it, but you bill that if someone doesn't pay, you still have to pay Rumpke for it. So you're assuming that risk would be
Yeah.
a setback as well.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts, because that was something that kind of piqued my interest. Because I'm thinking, well, if you put it on a bill, hopefully a bill's a bill, you need to pay it.
Right.
But I appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I think, my thoughts on it is if we do nothing and keep it the same, why are we even here? Right? We've got to come up with a better solution of what we have now. Because a big part of our city looks really bad because there's trash everywhere. So whether we stay with Rumpke or whether we do it ourselves, but I think we need to create some type of a new system.
I would agree. One of the selling points of doing it ourselves was forcing it to every water bill. So we're forcing everyone to have a trash can. Well, if they're able to do that, albeit we do assume some risk, we assume a little risk and we don't have any risk in the trash business. So that would be a positive. But I certainly would, I think it would be great to have the recyclable toters, because that's part of the trash that's blowing through the city. It's just, the stuff that blows out of the red bin. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'd like to see it, extended for a year, then, but then look at it again and see, the feasibility of doing it ourselves. Because right now, even looking at a truck or buying a truck, 8 months, year and a half, getting a truck.
So I was promised if I ordered October 1, I could have them by April. But,
Yeah.
So we've got, how long until the actual end date on the contract?
April.
Okay.
All right, April 1, April 30th. So yeah, I'd start May 1.
The way it is right now, if we would look at possibly doing an extension, would everything be as is, same price, no change unless we request something?
Correct. We can write it however we want, like, so we bid it, so we can write the bid spec however we want.
The contract is up and the extensions are up, so we're going back to bid. So we would create the specification. So there's no guarantees on price.
Right.
I think our thought process is because we seem to be teetering on the verge of either contemplating taking it over or not, is to shorten the term of the contract for the bid package so that we know we're not tied in for another 2 or 3 years. If we made it one with a 1-year option, we could have some more flexibility. Obviously, the downside to that is you tend to get a little bit better rate the longer that you lock things in. But kind of given where we're at, it seems that it would be a benefit us to shorten that term.
Okay, very good.
But I do like the deal of the toter for the recyclables.
Yeah, I would think we make the changes we want. We try it for a year with a year option, and at that point, if we want to do something different, then at least we've done something different. Because to President's point, like if we don't do anything, then
a lot of the trash that blows down Ohio Street's all plastic bottles and milk containers and.
Yeah, things out of the open red bins.
So I think what Ryan's asking, so, and that's fine, whether we do it ourselves or whether Rumpke does it. We just need to know what changes we want. So,
A toter for.
and I don't, we don't have to have that answer today, but I think we all need to think about it and come back and talk next council meeting.
The biggest issues is, as you heard Mr. Delk, he was promised that if we're going to take this on, we at the latest would need to order trucks by October 1st. So that's the main driving factor. Is to the extent that that's still on the table, then those discussions really need to kind of ramp up so that we can get that part settled. If the thought process is we're just going to try to tweak the contracts for a while, then the urgency of that isn't as much, but we still should get the plan in place.
Well, and then my other opinion on, the trucks and getting equipment, and then we're talking about 5 personnel, right?
Correct.
Approximately. In the hiring process and in trying to find reasonable, stable help. No matter when you start that process, so.
So the homework is, let's think about this and come up with some ideas. And then we can figure out whether to put it out on bid or to do it ourselves. But we just kind of need to know what changes need made. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next sidewalk program. So we've been talking about our sidewalk program, kind of going backwards, back 2019 timeframe. It was kind of started and then COVID hit and it just all kind of stopped. We've been discussing it in our administrative meetings here for months, really, on what direction we wanted to go. So the thought was, so we received $1,326,710 or $1,326,007. That's a big number. I can't say it. I'm not used to that. $710.08 in ARPA funds. So that was part of our COVID funds. We can use that for many different projects. One we did check into, we could use that for like a sidewalk assessment program. So that would be a fund that we could do the capital outlay because we're going to have to pay for that on the front end and then do the assessments. The time frame on the assessments is we can decide how long we want to set that out. Another thought we had was we could potentially use a portion of the money and offer like a grant program to, if you met these qualifications, the city would pay for this much. Some cities do percentages. The sky's kind of the limit on that. However, we want to divide that up. We kind of talked about it here Monday. And the thought was, so the original plan, they had the city phased out in like 10 different phases. It was a fairly aggressive plan. But we kind of talked about it. We're like, the biggest thing is if we could get walkability and good sidewalks on our state routes and our main thoroughfares as kind of a starting point. And then, you can kind of get anywhere once you get to that street or that sidewalk. So our original thought is focus on downtown area. Obviously the downtown's done, but the side streets, 3rd, 4th, and 5th from like Walnut to Sycamore, and then also Walnut and Sycamore, go East Main, Wagner, go down Washington, out to Schweitzer, Martin Street, kind of focus on those main thoroughfares with the sidewalk program. So again, it's just if council wants to proceed with something like that with those funds, we can start to get a little deeper in it to put a plan together. There's a lot of cost involved on the front end because you have a lot of engineering with it and you have to go out and you have to evaluate all the sidewalks and then they have to do an engineer's estimate for every one of them. And then you have to send letters and they have a period of time that we can set to get them fixed. And if they're not fixed in that time frame, then we can bid that out and go in and do whatever phase we're looking at that point. So again, it's just a kind of open discussion in my mind. Is it something that we want to pursue?
Is tree removal in that situation too?
Yes.
Okay.
If needed. I mean,
If needed, right?
Yep.
And back, for those of you who were here, back in 2019, we passed, or council was even pre me, passed the criteria of what they needed, what determined was a sidewalk that was out of compliance. And then we went so far as to do the assessments for phase one. All of that kind of came down at the beginning of COVID. And so they weren't carried through. We've got those original phases, unfortunately, because now it's been 3 years. We really can't use them. We can try to update them. But the original plan on phase one essentially focused on 3rd, 4th, and 5th Street from downtown heading east and taking care of all of that area. Our thought process was to try to, instead of taking care of that chunk of the city, which gets some traffic but doesn't get the flow as the main routes, to try to focus in on the main routes and then work back into the neighborhoods. And so that the criteria has already been established. It's just a matter of focusing in now on where we want everything to go and what areas of the cities we can bite off. I think given the current condition of the main thoroughfares, we can probably do a little bit more than what that original phase one was. Just because on that 3rd, 4th, and 5th Street, there were so many areas that needed significant replacement. I think the original engineer's estimate for that was like $600,000 worth of work, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think so.
And so the hope is that if we kind of reconfigure that onto some of the main areas, so we can really create better walking routes, if you will, and then kind of push our way back in. So the overall plan would be the same, that we'd still like to get to all of the city. That was the hope back then through the 10 phases. It's just, I think what we block up in the phases essentially now would be the change, try to get some more bang for our buck on the front end so more people can use those.
I would think that Martin, Maine, some of those are pretty new sidewalks, aren't they?
They're decent, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where we think we could get a lot further. Even out Wagner, a lot of them are decent. There's needs to be a lot of work at kind of the transitions. There's a lot of curbs out there that people have to jump, for like the ADA compliant stuff. Washington and Pine and parts of Schweitzer were probably the worst as we kind of drove it.
Okay. So what's council's thoughts?
I think, starting with those main arteries is going to be the better.
Want to possibly set a meeting before a regular council or on a separate night, just to refresh everyone to get us up to speed again. I mean, it's been a couple minutes since we've talked about it.
Yeah.
Well, this is not even, excuse me, but this is not like replacing everything. This is like repairing, making sure that they're good.
Everything's up to.
So, you got all that criteria that determines what is walkable and safe. So maybe that's something to review along with that. is How big cracks are.
I think it's definitely worth-
edges
yeah.
are.
Definitely worth talking about. I mean,
So I guess we would need to know the areas and then need to know the criterias. And then is this a matching, like the homeowner or property owner would be responsible for part of it, or?
And we can set that up however we want.
That's the part that's all new. If you remember back in 2019, when we put the sidewalk program, none of these funds were available, and it was just going to be assessments with the city outlaying the money in the front end, the hope to recoup it over time through the assessments and to keep going. The nice part now is, back then, I think part of the difficulty in establishing the program was, well, what can we do to help out homeowners who may not be able to afford it? Our only solution at that time was, well, we can spread the assessment out over a period of time on their taxes, and that was the relief we could offer. This money now, we can do with it what we want to try to get the most bang for our buck. And then I think we've just kind of, knowing that the sidewalks had been a priority back in 2019, it was nice now to have some seed money, if you will, one, to start the program, and two, if we do want to do any of the grant, that kind of thing, that we've got money for it. A lot of the areas that we're focusing on, most of them aren't going to qualify when you think about the main thoroughfares. There's a lot of businesses. The businesses wouldn't necessarily qualify for that. So, the hope is to save some of those funds to push it out more for residential use. But we need to create that entire program of how we're gonna do it, what matching. I mean, that's up to you guys to what we think and gals to what we think works best.
Wait, is that, the 1.3 million is just capital improvements, or is it earmarked for this particular?
No, it's not.
program, Or,
It's not earmarked. We can, and the auditor can maybe fill in a little bit, but we could use it for anything infrastructure related was one of the criteria. And sidewalks was in that portion of it.
Eligible.
Yes.
okay,
It was, it's ARPA money. So our thought process on it was, can we do something that could benefit the entire city?
right.
And it's visible.
One thing that we did talk about a lot in the past is 19 that we thought about doing it, but there was a lot of work up to that time. And it will be here on this. One of the things that is tough about this is that there's no grant money for this type of thing. Because it's in the Ohio ordinances code that's part of people's property and they have to take care of it. And that's why we've never seen any grant money come through for this type of thing. So in order to do it, you almost, it's such a big deal. You either pass a levy or you make people do it and assess. It's just, and it's tough to do. And it's tough on people, there's no doubt about it. But the one thing you gotta do is you gotta start, it's like, and I don't care where we start. It's like, I just want to get the program going. It's something that I started talking about as soon as I got in here. It's like, it's 6 years. It's frustrating to some respect, but it's the pandemic came, and all that stuff. And it's like, and it's gonna be tough on some people. There's no doubt about it, but it's kind of nice. And it's really cool that we have these funds now that we can help people out. Pretty neat. But that's like, for me, it's like, I think we need to start.
So Ryan, why don't you put together some thoughts and then next council meeting, maybe a couple of scenarios of how you want to do it. How it's gonna, the areas, what the homeowner or property owner is gonna pay, the percent, if there's any discount for low income or elderly people, and just let's roll it out to council and then maybe we can tweak it.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think I think we probably have a 15 or 20 minute discussion on it.
You're probably
So
right.
we probably don't need to come in early.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll put something together for next council meeting. With that, I pass. Thank you very much.
As always, thank you, Ryan. Law Director, Mr. Reeman.
Well, it seems like Mr. Delk took all my time.
So you're passing?
Yeah.
Okay. City Auditor, Roxanne.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I'm going to pass this evening as well.
Wow, Ryan must have took a lot of time up. All right, committee reports. Do we have anything back? Nothing. Move on to ordinances and resolution. The first resolution is waiving return check fee for Al and Phyllis Helms.
A resolution waiving the return check fee for Alan Phyllis Helms. This resolution waives the $30 return check fee for the account of Alan Phyllis Helms who have passed away.
Move to suspend the rules, give this resolution a second, third reading by title only.
It's been moved to suspend the rules, give this resolution second, third reading by title only. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
A resolution waiving the return check fee for Alan Phyllis Helms. A resolution waiving the return check fee for Alan Phyllis Helms.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Been moved by Mr. Rogers to approve the call the roll. Or is there any discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay, number 2, we have a transfer ordinance.
An ordinance for the transfer of funds among the appropriations of the various funds of the city of Greenville. This transfer ordinance allows for transfers in the general fund and public transportation fund and the sum as follows. $7,500 from travel and education fire department to new equipment fire department. This transfer is needed to purchase personal protective equipment for new employees. $2,500 from operating public transportation to office Office supplies, public transportation. This transfer is needed to cover additional office supplies and maintenance for 2022.
Move to suspend the rules and give this ordinance second and third reading by title only.
Been moved by Mr. Rogers to suspend this ordinance second, third time, read by title only. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
An ordinance for the transfer of funds among the appropriations of the various funds of the city of Greenville. An ordinance for the transfer of funds among the appropriations of the various funds of the city of Greenville.
Move to adopt.
Been moved by Mr. Brown to adopt. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay, number 3, we have a supplemental ordinance.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Greenville, state of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022. The supplemental ordinance allows for an appropriation in the general fund and the sum as follows. Chemicals, laundry supplies, swimming pool in the amount of $11,000. These funds are needed for pool chemicals due to cost increases.
Move to suspend the rules and give this ordinance second and third reading by title only.
Been moved by Mr. Rogers to suspend the rules, give this ordinance second, third reading, title only. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Greenville, state of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022. An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Greenville, state of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022.
Move to adopt the ordinance.
Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance. Discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay, and final ordinance resolution, we have a resolution authorizing, resolution authorizing solicitation of bids for the biosolids management.
A resolution authorizing solicitation of bids for biosolids management. This resolution authorizes the safety service director to solicit bids for biosolids management services.
Make a motion to suspend the rules in this resolution and read it by title only, second and third time.
Been moved by Mr. Godwin to suspend the rules of this resolution by second, third time. Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
A resolution authorizing solicitation of bids for biosolids management. A resolution authorizing solicitation of bids for biosolids management.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Moved by Mr. Rogers to adopt the resolution. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay, that completes our ordinances and resolutions. Go on to new business. We have none. Any old business? Council outside the committees, CIC. Is there any update on that? Is that
Meetings next week.
okay? And communications.
We received the monthly report of June from the police department and the second quarter report from the fire department.
Call of council. We do executive first or call council?
We usually call council.
Call council, yeah.
Brown,
Pass.
Ely,
Thank you. I was attended a senior town hall meeting today out at the Birchwood Center. And they are finally getting ready to officially start having a center, a senior citizen, senior center. I'll get it out in a minute. They had a roundtable discussion. There were probably 30 senior citizens there. There were representatives from various senior facilities. And I think they took, they went around the room and asked them what they wanted, what they'd like to see. And one of the comments was, yes, we want card playing. Yes, we want bingo, but we want some travel. We want some education. We want some exercise place. If none of you have been out to the Birchwood Center, it is really nice. And it's big enough that they can gather and they can have room to move around. And, I think they're trying to push COVID back on us, but this was a really super nice meeting. They're scheduling, and you can contact them out at Department of DD. One of their people is heading this up. You can also talk to people at CAP. This is something that's been in the works, and they've been talking about it. And now we're finally getting some action on it. And they're looking, and for one thing that I learned today that I'm glad to hear, that Meals on Wheels is now being done back in our city again. We had it contracted out to Dayton, and my experience with that contract, it didn't work very well. I didn't feel like they got packaged meals, but I'm not sure I would have wanted to eat any of those packaged meals, just dealing with my sister-in-law. And she didn't like them either. So we couldn't get her to eat them. So I think there's some things that they're planning and they're excited. And the senior citizens that were there today, they were really excited. They were engaged. They wanted, like yesterday would have been appropriate for them, but they are willing to meet, and they're going to try to meet on a monthly basis. And they're also going to start having activities. And that is what we need. And one of the things that that came out right away, and it's something that we all need to be aware of, there is a transportation problem. Getting them to and from out there where, the DD used to be where Wayne Industries was. So I would like to put it in the thought process as we move forward with our transportation issues, that we take into consideration maybe coming up with a special program for senior citizens to get to the Senior Citizen Center. I know it's all about the turning over of money and making sure money is available, but this is something that our community's needed for a long time. So I just ask for some consideration as we approach that next problem that we're dealing with. So with that, I pass, and thank you very much.
Godwin,
I'm gonna pass.
Norris,
Short there. I'll make mine fast then too. Last tournament of the year for GGSA. So we're going to have probably 30 or 31 teams Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So probably close to 3,000 people out on the north end again. And thank heavens for the Fair Board loans us their great big signs, and gets people's attention because it says slow down for congested fair traffic, but it works. And we put those on each end of the ballpark out there just because of that curve there. And with that, I'll pass.
Rogers,
Yes, Norris, thanks for bringing that up. We have definitely needed something like that for several years. And so thanks for bringing that up. And yes, we do need to think about transportation if they don't have their own. And with that, I pass.
Schmidt,
I will pass.
President Baumgartner,
I will pass also. I will entertain a motion to rise to executive session.
So
Move to rise to executive session, ORC 121-22-1, for consideration of appointment, employment dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. Call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Ewing,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Norris,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
They're gonna fire me.